You are the gatekeeper of your mind. That simple truth carries more power than most people realize. Each day, countless thoughts arise within you, some helpful, some harmful, some inspiring, and some destructive. These thoughts may be triggered by the outside world, by a conversation, by an unexpected event, or even by your own memories. But regardless of where they come from, you are the one who chooses which thoughts stay and which ones are allowed to pass. Imagine your mind as a sacred space, a temple. Not everyone and everything should be allowed to enter. Just as you wouldn't let a stranger walk into your home and rearrange your furniture, why allow uninvited thoughts or toxic people to rearrange your inner peace? The world outside is full of opinions, judgments, projections, and provocations. People will say things, do things, and sometimes act without understanding the impact of their words. But their noise does not need to become your inner voice. You have the ability to pause, to observe, and to decide what enters the gates of your awareness. When you truly understand that you are the gatekeeper, you begin to see that not everything deserves your energy. Not every comment needs a reply. Not every insult requires your defense. Sometimes silence is the highest form of strength. It is not about being passive, but about choosing wisely what is worth your attention. Anger, frustration, irritation, these are natural responses, but they do not have to control you. Just because the wind blows does not mean you have to be shaken by it. Just because a storm is outside does not mean you must let it inside. Many people believe that external circumstances are to blame for their emotions. They say, "He made me angry," or "She ruined my day." But the truth is deeper. No one can truly make you feel anything without your permission. Yes, people can trigger you, but whether you react with calm or with chaos is your choice. Being the gatekeeper means recognizing that the reaction is yours to own. It means being alert enough to catch the moment before the emotion takes control, to witness the spark before it becomes a wildfire. This power of choosing your response is what creates inner freedom. If you do not guard your mind, anyone can walk in and leave behind their emotional mess. If you do not filter what you accept, you begin to carry the burdens of others, their anger, their negativity, their limitations. Over time, you begin to think their thoughts, feel their feelings, and leave their fears. But that is not your path. Your path is to be conscious. Your path is to live deliberately. And that begins by saying, "This thought does not serve me. This energy does not belong here. This person's opinion is not my reality." Of course, being a gatekeeper does not mean building walls or becoming cold. It means becoming wise. You still engage with the world, but you do so from a centered place. You still hear criticism, but you no longer absorb it as truth. You still feel anger arise, but you do not let it sit down and stay. You welcome what nourishes your growth and release what poisons your peace. You take full responsibility for your mental environment. This kind of self-mastery is not achieved overnight. It is a practice, a daily discipline. Every moment presents you with the choice: do I react or do I respond? Do I let this in or do I let it go? Over time, your awareness sharpens. You begin to see the tricks of the ego, the patterns of reactivity, the old wounds that get pressed. But instead of acting on them, you breathe, you step back, you choose differently. This is the work of the gatekeeper, not to deny emotion, but to rule over it with presence and wisdom. When you live like this, you no longer feel like a victim of the world. You do not wake up each day fearing what others might do or say. You walk with quiet strength, knowing that your mind is not a battlefield, it is a sanctuary. You do not allow every passing shadow to become a storm. You protect your peace not by running from the world, but by mastering your own, because you are not what happens to you. You are how you meet it, And when you remember that you are the gatekeeper of your mind, you begin to live with calm, clarity, and unstoppable freedom. Emotions are visitors. They come, they stay for a while, and then they leave. Just like guests arriving at your door, some are welcome and others are not. Some bring joy, peace, and clarity, while others bring discomfort, pain, or confusion. But no matter how they arrive or what they bring, they are not permanent. They are not who you are. They are simply passing through. Yet most people treat emotions as if they are permanent residents. When anger shows up, it becomes their identity. When sadness comes, it becomes their world. When anxiety arrives, it takes over their decisions. But this is not the truth. Emotions are not you. They do not define you. They are experiences that pass through your awareness. You are the space in which they appear. You are the sky, and the emotions are just the clouds, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, sometimes dark, but never lasting. The mistake is in attaching to them. When you say, "I am angry," you are identifying with the emotion. You are no longer observing it, you are becoming it. But anger is not who you are. It is something that arises in you, often in response to something external or unresolved within. It's a signal, not a sentence. It points to something that needs attention, not something that defines your character. When you begin to see emotions this way as visitors, your relationship to them transforms. You no longer resist them out of fear or cling to them out of habit. You simply acknowledge them and allow them to pass through. This shift in perspective changes everything. You begin to respond instead of react. You start to witness your emotions with curiosity rather than judgment. When sadness comes, you can say, "Ah, you are here again. What are you trying to show me this time?" When fear arises, you can look at it directly and ask, "What story are you telling me now, and is it true?" This kind of inner dialogue creates space, and in that space you find freedom. Freedom does not mean not feeling. It means not being controlled by what you feel, to allow emotions to rise, to peak, and to fall without grasping or resisting. That is true emotional intelligence. Most people chase the pleasant emotions and reject the unpleasant ones. They want happiness to stay forever and sadness to leave immediately. But this is not how emotions work. All emotions have a natural rhythm. They arise, they move through you, and they dissolve. Trying to hold on to one or push away another only creates suffering. Imagine emotions like waves in the ocean. You can't stop the waves from coming, but you can learn to surf them. You don't drown in a wave unless you panic or fight against it. Similarly, emotions will not overwhelm you if you remain present and centered. The key is to stay with the feeling without needing to fix it, suppress it, or escape it. Observe the sensation in your body. Notice the thoughts that accompany it. Watch how it changes with time. This observation is what allows the emotion to complete its cycle. When you truly understand that emotions are visitors, you begin to treat them with more kindness. You no longer see them as enemies or problems. Even the difficult ones carry messages. They are signals from your deeper self, revealing unmet needs, hidden fears, or unresolved wounds. Anger might be pointing to a boundary that was crossed. Anxiety might be showing you a part of life that feels out of control. Sadness might be reminding you of something you deeply value. If you push these emotions away without listening, the message gets buried, not healed. But if you welcome them like visitors and sit with them, they often bring you closer to yourself. This is not a passive process. It requires attention, discipline, and self-awareness. It means staying with discomfort when your instinct is to run. It means pausing instead of reacting. It means trusting that even the heaviest emotion is not permanent. And over time, you start to realize something powerful. You are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the host, not the guest. You are the witness, not the storm. Emotions come, and emotions go, but you, the one who sees them, remain. Every word that falls from another person's lips speaks more about their own landscape than yours. When someone criticizes you, it is not a mirror held up to your face, but a window into their mind, their fears, their stories. Their judgment, praise, sarcasm, or indifference unravels the threads of their own conditioning, history, and emotional state. If you pause and listen without taking it personally, you begin to see their words as an offering. They reveal where they stand, what they value, and where they are wounded. You realize that an insult may be born of insecurity, that a backhanded compliment may mask their own envy, that harshness often hides pain. When you understand that what others say is about them, you gain the power to observe their language without inheriting its weight. In every conversation, two people speak, but there are three truths present: yours, theirs, and the reality in between. Too often we assume that someone's reaction to us defines our worth, as if their perception encapsulates our entire being. But imagine placing someone else's words on a river's surface and watching them float by. The water carries them downstream, and they disappear beyond view. When you do not grab that drifting note and weave it into your own identity, you remain intact, unmoved by criticism or flattery. You understand that their narrative does not have the authority to rewrite your story unless you hand them the pen. Your reaction, on the other hand, tells a different tale. It reveals your patterns, your vulnerabilities, your triggers. If a slight comment rouses your defensiveness, it shines a light on an old wound, a belief you hold about yourself that longs for validation. If praise inflates your ego and sends you soaring beyond reason, it exposes a reliance on external approval that can leave you unsteady. Each emotion that springs to life in response to another person's words is a guest in your inner house, and the way you welcome it speaks volumes about your own habits of mind. Reactivity is an echo of the past, a playback of unresolved feeling. When you shift from reacting to responding, you step out of the echo chamber and into conscious choice. Responding requires a pause. It demands that you breathe, feel the sensation in your body, notice the thoughts swirling in your mind, and then decide whether you want to speak or remain silent. In that pause, you separate the other person's story from your own. You neither suppress your feelings nor allow them to hijack your behavior. You acknowledge them, give them space, and let them move through you without entangling you in a drama not of your making. This kind of awareness is the birthplace of true freedom, because it allows you to act from intention rather than habit, from clarity rather than confusion. When you fully embrace the idea that what others say is about them, you cultivate compassion. You recognize their suffering, their hopes, their confusion. You no longer view criticism as a personal attack, but as a signal that someone is speaking from a place of wounding or fear. This doesn't mean accepting abuse or tolerating disrespect. It means understanding the root of the behavior so you can choose how to engage. You may decide to set boundaries with kindness, to offer empathy, or simply to walk away when no constructive dialogue can be had. In any case, you remain sovereign, maintaining your integrity without being carried away by the currents of another's emotion. At the same time, you own your reactions. You stop blaming others for how you feel. "He made me angry," becomes "I noticed anger arise within me." "She hurt me," becomes "I am feeling hurt." This shift from projection to ownership is profound. It returns you to your center, reminding you that you are responsible for your inner climate. Just as a gardener tends to soil and weeds, you tend to your mind, pulling up the beliefs and judgments that cause you to suffer. You water the seeds of compassion, curiosity, and presence so that they can flourish, while letting the tares of reactivity wither through attention and non-resistance. In this way, you transform relationships, not by controlling others, but by mastering your own responses. Conversations become opportunities for growth rather than battlegrounds for ego. Conflicts become invitations to understand deeper needs and perspectives. Praise becomes a chance to practice humility and gratitude. Criticism, a chance to refine self-awareness. You build resilience not by isolating yourself, but by engaging fully, with the confidence that your peace does not depend on another's approval. When you grasp that what others say is about them, and how you react is about you, you step into a life of empowerment. You no longer drift in the winds of public opinion or the hurricanes of drama. You become the calm at the center of the storm, carrying with you the quiet certainty that your inner world is your own to shape. In this sovereign space, you can respond with wisdom born of clarity, compassion born of understanding, and strength born of self-mastery. No matter what the world may whisper in your ear, peace is your power. It is not a weakness, nor is it the absence of conflict or difficulty. Peace is the steady, unwavering state that allows you to face life with clarity, strength, and control. It is not something passive or distant. It is active, alive, and deeply present. When you cultivate peace within yourself, you become unshakable in a world full of noise, opinions, and uncertainty. Peace is not just a feeling, it is a force, a kind of energy that allows you to move through the storms of life without being pulled under by them. There is a certain quiet confidence that comes with being at peace. When others argue, you can listen without the need to fight. When situations spiral into chaos, you remain grounded, not because you are unaffected, but because you have trained yourself not to be consumed. Peace gives you the ability to respond instead of react. It grants you space between stimulus and response, and in that space, you find choice, your greatest power. That choice is what separates those who are ruled by external circumstances from those who live from within. In a world where everyone is rushing, trying to prove themselves, defend their positions, or be heard louder than others, peace stands out as rare and powerful. It is the person who speaks calmly in a heated moment that everyone listens to. It is the one who remains centered when others are breaking down that others look to for guidance. When you are at peace, people can feel it. It is not something you need to announce. It radiates through your presence, your voice, your decisions, and even your silence. Peace gives you clarity. In emotional situations where reactions can cloud judgment, peace clears the fog. It allows you to see the situation for what it truly is, not what your fear or anger might project onto it. From peace, you can see what is necessary and what is noise. You begin to discern what deserves your attention and what simply does not. That discernment is power. So much of life's stress comes not from what happens, but from our inability to see clearly and choose wisely. When you cultivate inner peace, you reclaim that ability. This inner peace is not dependent on your environment being perfect. In fact, the more peace you develop within, the less you need the outer world to conform to your expectations. You no longer demand others change to make you feel comfortable. You do not wait for everything to go right to feel okay. You carry peace with you like a light, and it transforms how you experience life. In this way, peace becomes your stability in uncertainty, your calm in conflict, your anchor in chaos. Peace also protects your energy. It shields you from being pulled into unnecessary drama or battles that are not yours to fight. It teaches you when to speak and when to be silent, when to engage and when to step away. It prevents you from wasting time and emotional strength on things that do not serve your growth. In protecting your peace, you begin to value your inner space more than momentary validation or ego. driven confrontation. That protection of peace is not avoidance, it is wisdom. The journey to cultivating peace is not about never feeling upset or frustrated. It is about building the capacity to return to stillness even after being disturbed. It's not about pretending to be calm while suppressing your feelings. Real peace is honest. It allows space for your emotions but doesn't allow them to control your actions. You can feel anger without becoming it. You can experience sadness without losing yourself in it. Peace is the awareness that you are bigger than whatever emotion passes through you. Peace is discipline. It takes practice. It means choosing not to argue when your ego wants to fight. It means pausing to breathe before you respond. It means walking away when staying would cost your inner balance. Every time you make that choice, you strengthen the roots of your peace. And over time, those roots grow deep. So deep, in fact, that even when others try to pull you into negativity, you remain grounded. You do not bend to their energy. Instead, you become the influence, calm, present, and in control. Peace is not the reward of a perfect life. It is the result of a trained mind. It is not something you find in a quiet room, although silence helps. It is something you find inside yourself when you stop trying to control everything outside of you. It is remembering that your reactions are yours to command, that your thoughts can be chosen, and that your attention is sacred. When you choose peace again and again, especially when it is difficult, you claim your true power, not over others, but over yourself. And that is the greatest power there is. Silence is strength. Not the kind of silence that comes from fear, suppression, or avoidance, but the silence that is chosen with awareness. It is the silence that holds power, the kind that can calm storms, diffuse conflict, and create clarity where words only add confusion. In a world that constantly demands noise, opinions, reactions, and responses, the one who remains silent by choice is often the one who holds the greatest influence. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the channel through which true power flows. Many believe that strength lies in speaking up, in proving a point, in defending oneself at all costs. But true strength does not always announce itself with loud declarations. It can be found in restraint, in the refusal to be pulled into unnecessary drama, in the quiet knowing that not every battle is worth fighting. Silence creates space to observe, to think, to feel, and most importantly, to understand. When you remain silent, especially in emotionally charged moments, you give yourself the chance to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. That is the kind of strength that builds inner mastery. You see what is really happening. You notice the tone behind the words, the emotion behind the actions, the insecurity behind the insult. Without the need to immediately speak or prove, you can read between the lines. You start to realize that not everything deserves a reaction. Not every comment needs a reply. Some things resolve themselves in the quiet, simply because your silence did not add fuel to the fire. It is not passivity, it is power under control. It is the wisdom to know when words will help and when they will only make things worse. Silence also reveals the depth of a person. When you are silent, you are not empty. You are full of thoughts, full of awareness, full of presence. You become a mirror for others, and in that reflection, they often see themselves more clearly. Your silence can make someone reconsider their actions, reflect on their words, or recognize the weight of the moment. In many cases, silence speaks louder than any response could. It shows confidence, self-control, and awareness. It shows that you are not governed by the need to be right or heard. You are governed by the need to stay grounded and intentional. There is strength in not reacting, especially when provoked. Anyone can raise their voice, anyone can argue back, but to hold silence, to remain calm when others expect you to break, that takes a higher level of control. You are not suppressing your feelings, you are channeling them in a more focused way. You are letting time and awareness do the talking. In silence, you can watch the situation unfold without becoming part of the chaos. And in that pause, clarity arises. The truth becomes more visible, and your decision, when it comes, will be rooted in depth, not impulse. Silence is also the ground from which creativity, insight, and healing emerge. In the quiet moments when the mind is not cluttered with conversation or distraction, new perspectives begin to surface. Answers you were searching for reveal themselves not through more thinking, but through stillness. When you sit with silence, you become familiar with your own inner landscape. You begin to hear your own voice beneath the noise of the world. You reconnect with what truly matters. And from that connection, strength is born, not just the strength to endure, but the strength to choose wisely, speak truthfully, and act with purpose. Silence is the most loving response, not because you have nothing to say, but because you understand that saying it will not bring peace. In arguments, silence can be a signal of maturity. It says, I do not need to prove myself. In tension, silence can be a form of compassion. It says, I value this relationship more than winning this moment. In uncertainty, silence can be the door to presence. It says, I trust that clarity will come when the noise settles. This kind of silence is not empty, it is deeply intelligent. In a culture that often associates silence with weakness, choosing silence becomes a radical act. It means rejecting the need to participate in every conversation, every opinion, every confrontation. It means valuing your energy, your peace, and your presence above the temporary satisfaction of reacting. It is the strength to walk away, the strength to hold your ground, the strength to stay centered in a loud world. And the more you cultivate that strength, the more unshakable you become, not because you have more to say, but because you have mastered when not to. Non-reaction is not suppression. It is one of the most misunderstood forms of inner discipline. Many assume that when you don't react to something triggering, it must mean you're holding things in, denying how you feel, or pretending to be unaffected. But non-reaction is not about pushing your emotions away or locking them behind a mask of calm. It is about allowing emotions to arise, fully feeling them, but choosing not to let them govern your behavior. It is the deliberate decision to observe instead of act, to understand instead of explode. There is no avoidance in it, only deep presence. When someone says something hurtful or provokes you, the impulse to react is strong. It may come as a rush of anger, a need to defend, or a desire to make them feel what they made you feel. But that reaction, as quick and natural as it might seem, is often rooted in old patterns, unresolved pain, or ego. Reacting gives control to the emotion and to the external situation. Non-reaction, however, returns control to you. It is not a denial of what you feel, it is a refinement of how you respond. To not react is to sit with the heat of anger without letting it burn you or anyone else. It is to feel the sting of insult, the pull of fear, the weight of disappointment, and yet remain steady. It is not about being numb or detached. On the contrary, it is about being so aware of what's happening inside that you no longer let it erupt in unconscious behavior. It takes a powerful presence of mind to pause in moments where your past reactions might have already taken over. That pause is not suppression. It is a conscious space where you can breathe, process, and choose. Suppression happens when you push an emotion away without acknowledging it. You bury it because you believe it's wrong to feel that way. Over time, suppressed emotions don't disappear, they fester. They grow in the dark and resurface later, often stronger and more distorted. Suppression is fear-driven. It comes from not wanting to deal with the discomfort of feeling. Non-reaction, on the other hand, requires full engagement. You feel the emotion fully, but you don't let it dictate your next move. You allow it to be there, but you hold it in your awareness like holding a fragile object, carefully, with attention and care. There is great strength in that stillness. It means you are no longer a puppet of your environment. You're not just reacting to everything that moves around you. You are stable within yourself. You can look someone in the eye while they throw their projections at you and not be dragged into their chaos. You can walk away from conflict, not because you're weak or afraid, but because you understand that peace is more powerful than pride. You no longer need to prove anything because you've learned to trust your own inner truth more than the noise of the moment. Non-reaction is also a gift to others. When you don't react immediately, you give people space to reflect. Often, when someone lashes out, what they need is not retaliation, but a mirror. Your calm presence can be that mirror. It can make them pause, reconsider, and possibly awaken to the energy they're bringing. Your silence, your steady gaze, your peaceful energy, all of these can speak louder than any defense or argument ever could. You're not dismissing them, you're choosing to elevate the interaction to a higher level. To live this way takes practice. It requires a daily commitment to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. You begin to watch how your mind wants to run toward conflict, how your ego wants to win, how your wounds want to speak, and yet you sit with all of it. You breathe, you feel, and you let it pass. You don't bury it. You burn it in the fire of your awareness. What emerges from that fire is clarity. From that clarity comes freedom, and from that freedom you begin to live in alignment, with presence, with peace, with purpose. When people speak of strength, they often think of force, of action, of domination. But real strength is restraint, grounded in self-awareness. Non-reaction is the discipline of that strength. It is the quiet rebellion against a world that wants to pull you into chaos. It is the soft power of a person who has mastered themselves, not by suppressing who they are, but by fully knowing who they are and refusing to be ruled by anything less. True strength lies in staying calm amidst provocation. Not in lifting heavy weights, not in loud words or sharp comebacks, but in the ability to remain still and centered when the world around you tries to pull you off balance. Anyone can be calm when things are easy, when everyone is agreeable, when the environment is quiet. But when tension rises, when tempers flare, when someone challenges your dignity or steps on your boundaries, that is the real test. That is where your true strength reveals itself, not in how hard you push back, but in how deeply you can stay grounded. Provocation comes in many forms. It can be a rude comment, an unfair judgment, a betrayal, or a challenge to your beliefs. In those moments, your emotions surge, anger, defensiveness, pride, pain. The mind wants to react, to strike, to make the other person feel what you're feeling. But if you allow yourself to be led by that reaction, you lose your inner power. You hand it over to the person who triggered you. Staying calm is not about being passive. It's about being so rooted in your awareness that you can witness the storm without being swept away by it. It takes strength to pause before reacting. It takes even more strength to listen while being misunderstood, to stay quiet when provoked, to respond with presence instead of impulse. That strength comes not from suppressing your emotions, but from being aware of them, holding them with understanding, and deciding that they will not control your next action. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of discipline. To hold your energy when someone is trying to drain it, to remain composed when someone is trying to shake you, that is power. When you stay calm, you protect your energy. You don't let your peace be dictated by someone else's mood or behavior. You maintain the integrity of your mind, your heart, and your values. That calmness is a shield. It keeps you from saying things you'll later regret, from escalating situations that don't deserve escalation, and from making decisions clouded by temporary emotion. It's not about avoiding confrontation. It's about entering it from a space of control and purpose, not emotional chaos. To remain calm amidst provocation is also to gain perspective. Instead of reacting blindly, you step back and see the bigger picture. You begin to notice the patterns in others, how their words might come from pain, fear, or misunderstanding. You no longer take everything personally. You begin to ask yourself, what's really happening here? What is this person showing me about themselves? And what am I learning about myself in this moment? From that space, your response becomes a reflection of your wisdom, not your wound. Calmness gives you clarity. In a heated moment, when you remain still inside, you can see not just what's happening, but what needs to happen. You become a source of balance for others. People may expect anger, expect a reaction, but when they're met with calm presence, it often disarms them. It breaks the pattern. Your calmness becomes contagious. It creates space for reflection, for solution, for transformation. That is a quiet kind of leadership, not through domination, but through steadiness. Staying calm also means trusting yourself. It means you know who you are, what you stand for, and that your value isn't diminished by someone else's behavior. You don't need to defend your worth with noise. You don't need to prove your strength with volume. You show it through control, through restraint, through your ability to choose peace when war is easier. That trust in yourself is what makes calmness possible. Without it, you're constantly reacting, constantly chasing control outside, never finding the power within. There will always be people who test your patience. Life will present situations that push your limits. But each time you meet those moments with calm instead of chaos, you grow. You build the kind of strength that cannot be taken away from you. A calm mind is a powerful mind. A calm heart is a steady heart. And a calm presence is often the most transformative force in a world that thrives on reaction. The strongest person in the room is not the one shouting the loudest, but the one who speaks with care, who pauses with intention, and who moves through conflict like still water, deep, quiet, and unstoppable. Calmness is not something you wait for. It is something you practice, and the more you choose it, especially in moments when it's hardest to choose, the more powerful you become, not just over the situation, but over yourself. That is where true strength lies.